Hello, and thanks for joining me on my podcast, I to You. This is where I share my experiences with you in hopes of inspiring and offering a pathway um, for you in your journey in life after a traumatic event, or if you find yourself in a place you'd like to see some change. I will warn you again, this is about trauma. I can imagine that there's going to be things said that are triggering. If you're not up for that, please sign off. And for everybody else, again, thanks for joining me. Um, if I said that you could take the worst moments of your life and turn them into positive life altering moments, when I say positive life altering moments, I don't mean you're going to turn the event into positive. I just said it was the worst event that happened. It becomes positive when it becomes the foundation to the best version of you. That's not something I define. This isn't something that I tell you what that is. You define that. I define it for myself. You define it for yourself. You know what makes you happy. You know what makes you feel good. If that's not where you are and that's where you want to be, that's what I'm here for. That's what I'm here to talk about. I'm going to be gathering resources and putting content out so that you can follow along on the journey that I've had and the journey that I continue to have that leads to the best and happiest version of me. Not just happiness in I'm not laying around depressed. I mean, when I wake up, I'm happy that I woke up. I can't wait for what the day has in store for me. I'm walking a path that I think can be a positive impact for others, which ultimately will be a positive impact on myself. And that's who I'm out here to make sure I am working for me. And that's what I encourage you all to do for you. I'm going to take you back to shortly after my son had died. And when I say shortly, I mean days. Still in shock, I'm sure, but probably the most real moment I experienced. So shock was probably wearing pretty thin. It was when we had to go to the funeral home. I'm sure you've all been to a funeral home. They're not meant to be happy places. Quiet old building. Some gentlemen who ran the place, and they had been very kind. They were taking care of all of the procedures, if you will. They had a bunch of questions. About, there was semantic questions. There was questions about what do you want to go in the eulogy? What would you like to happen here and there? And can you please sign here? And can you please sign there? It was overwhelming. It was awful. All I could think is, how can these people ask me anything in this moment? Now, there's a lot more to the story. There's a lot more impactful and negative things that happened, but those are so vividly real to me. I walked out into the parking lot and I vomited from the stress, the pressure. It was all boiling over right there. Now, while that was probably one of the harder days in those first few, it's exemplary of where I was, my starting point, if you will, of my rebirth. And I can tell you today that even though that day I doubted I would ever smile or laugh or enjoy things that I once enjoyed, enjoy new things that I didn't even know I'd like, I was wrong about all those things. I enjoy all of them today. I'm happier today than I've ever been. I've learned more than I ever thought I would learn. I continue to learn. I continue to go down a path where I think that I can inspire others to go through the necessary processes to get to where they want to be. I know I can show a light, a bridge, a way across from where you find yourself. If you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, that's one we hear in the South. Then let's do something about it. Life is too short and too precious to just waste sad or anxious, unhappy because we think we're doing what we're supposed to do. This is my lot in life. This is just how things happened. I screwed up too bad. I deserve this. All of that's wrong. We all make mistakes. I've definitely made my fair share, if not more. I don't think that it's important how the facts that we have to face get to us. It's important how we react to them. And so I'd like to share that with you guys. I'm not going to share everything in this one podcast. I'm just breaking the ice here, sharing who I am, what I'm about, what I'm trying to do. Quick overview of the processes that I have gone through, what I implement in everything that I do in life, how I achieve things that I'm trying to achieve, and how you can do it as well. My happiness is not based on financial situation or gathering of material things, as I don't have a bunch of either. My happiness is based in when I wake up, I don't have pressure. I do not feel anxiety. I do not have the weight of depression. I have enjoyment. I have excitement. I learn more every day how to enjoy each and every moment. I know one of the big things I learned when Joel passed away was humility. That was a big one, a huge one. Humility in knowing how little I know. Humility in knowing that life is so short and it can be over so quick. Humility and understanding that we got to change if things aren't the way we want them. Now, it took me years to understand that I wasn't where I wanted to be. I thought, again, just my lot in life. This is how it's going to be. I'm going to be sad. I'm going to be anxious. I'm going to wake up every day depressed. No real future. Just going to waller in this. And that's not how it has to be at all. And I've learned that now. I've learned that my perspective on life, the energy that I put out, the things I think, directly affect my emotional status. I am in control of how I feel. And that's not that I have to say that painful things aren't painful and sad things aren't sad. That's to say that I have to understand them for what they are. Events in our life are just that, events. They are not our life. And if those events are events that take you to bad places and you feel like you've learned everything you can learn from that event, then stop visiting it. Don't go there. It's okay. It's still there. That event still happened. Just because you don't wallow in the misery that it provides you doesn't mean that you don't respect the event for what it was. It was what it was. Your reaction can be whatever you want it to be. You don't have to be sad because something sad happened to you. Now, that's not to say the day after your child dies, you can say, no big deal. I'm just not going to think about that anymore. I'm no fool. It is a miserable experience. It is awful. It is dark. Again, humbling. But I made a promise to myself earlier on that once I got through the suicide portion, which if you find yourself in a place of suicide, first of all, it's not the route. It is not the route. Please seek immediate help. Call somebody you love. Call a hotline. Once you make it over that hump, which I had, I made a agreement with myself that I would become a better person every day. That was a crawl in the beginning. Not a lot happening. I still was able to do something to be a better person every day, but it wasn't much. It was slowed down by Klonopin the first years. I was the only one who didn't think I was a zombie. I was the only one being fooled. These things are necessary when something traumatic first happens to us, and I don't take that away. Medication has its place. We have symptoms that need to be treated in the moment. We need to treat them. I thought to myself, well, a doctor's prescribing it to me. He knows what's going on. Shit, he probably knows better than me. I'm in such a cloudy haze of depression and anxiety, suffering from PTSD, all of these things, severe panic disorder. Surely a doctor knows more than me. He's prescribing me this medication. I'll continue to take it. And what I did, and I'm sure a lot of others do as well, is I fall into that belief category of believing something to be true when I don't know really what I'm talking about. I believed that I was supposed to be in this depressed, shitty state. There was no escaping it. I could just live through it, work through it, grit and bear it, if you will. And that's just not the way it has to be. I would do the same thing that I do now if I find myself believing in something and belief really is trusting something to be fact, even though we do not know the details. I'll let you take that from there. It's believing something to be a fact, even though we don't understand or know the details. I believe a car runs with a little gremlin in there running. When I start it up, it starts up the gremlin and the gremlin runs. I believe that to be true. I don't open the hood and look to see if there's any difference. I don't know any better, so that's what I believe. That's going to limit me. That's going to prevent me from finding the truth, from finding the answers. So in that, I would listen to those who affirmed my sadness and my anxieties. The people who also agreed that a gremlin ran my automobile. And when someone came along, even though I knew they loved me and they were trying, I would immediately rebuff their questions of how long I would wallow in my misery, how long I would stay depressed and wouldn't try to thrive. They know nothing. They haven't lost a child. They haven't been through anything tough. Their situation is different than mine. There's always a reason or excuse to disqualify something that somebody says that is in conflict with what it is that we believe. And because I believed I was supposed to be sad and this was my lot in life, that is what I would do. So there was no talking to me. I had built a wall around my sadness and grief and insulated it with ignorance. This is something that kept me from growing faster and kept me in this negative place for longer, way longer than I needed to be. I've made a ton of changes in my life. I have a completely different life now. All things are not good. I've made plenty of mistakes. I have plenty of beds I have to quote unquote lie in. But that doesn't mean I'm unhappy. That doesn't mean I suffer. It means that there's an uphill battle in certain areas. It means that there's more work in others. And it means that there's certain things or people or relationships that are no longer available to me. Whether that mistake was mine, someone else's, or a combination of the two, they are what they are. We do have to accept things. Things do become true because we are not the only ones involved in, say, a relationship. There's another person involved, and if that other person isn't willing or wanting the same things that you are, then we must accept that and move forward. We control us and our emotions. We need to hold no ill will towards these individuals, no vindication. We don't need to dwell in any of that. We need to learn what we did wrong. How did I fuck this up? What did I do wrong? How can I prevent from losing another close person in my life by not repeating this step? Learn from it, but you don't have to live there. And that's a big one. So many of us spend so much time living in the past. And I'm sure a lot of you have heard that identification in crime. So I have a background in the criminal justice system, and eyewitness testimony is no good. A lot of times it's all we have when a crime is committed. Someone's hurt, something is taken. All we have is eyewitness testimony, but over and over and over, it is shown to be untrustworthy. The individual believes what they say. They believe they saw what they saw. Then they're shown a video and they see that they did not see what they thought they saw. We all walk around with our masks on, and these masks consist of this mask is our reality, and it consists of what makes us up, the combination of our parents that make us up as far as our DNA goes, the experiences that we've had, the emotions that we were taught to have towards said experiences, the things that we've learned, the things that we think that we like and don't like. All of this creates a lens that we now see life through, and that is our reality. Now, that's not to get tripped up over semantics. And if somebody wants to define reality of what I call facts, so a tree is a tree is a tree, right? A tree is a tall thing standing above the ground made out of what we call wood. We have an understanding of language. We must stick to that so that we can communicate with one another. So, sticking with that, I'm going to define reality as this lens that we see life through. Very unique to me, yours unique to you. But we don't get to choose the facts. We really don't choose our reality, other than we can change this lens by learning and understanding things for what they are, putting practices in place, again, based on what we've learned in the past. So we can't change the facts, we can change the lens in which we see them. And that doesn't allow us to just make bad things not bad anymore. Sad things are sad. I get that, and I'm not saying you can change that. I'm saying that you don't have to live there. When you visit there, you can be sad with that. But then you must leave and be in the moment that you're now in, because that is the only moment that is going to affect the next moment. The moment where you're living in a sad place, say the day that my child died, if I go there and I live for even 5 minutes, that is 5 minutes that I did not use to make tomorrow better or to set tomorrow up for success. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't ever go visit that day, but I don't spend a lot of time there, and I definitely don't let my emotions run wild in that place. It is possible that we can all be as happy as we want to be. And when I say happy, I don't mean something that I define for you as happy. I mean, it's what you define as happy, what you define as success. You define those things and you can get there. Or you can stay in the same place where you stay today. I stayed in my sad, depressed, shitty spot for many moons, and I hope that I can save people time, if nothing else, on their journey. But I'd like to also encourage you and let you know that it is absolutely possible to go from the absolute depths of depression, anxiety, sadness, the worst feelings you can think of, I mean physically ill with sadness, to thriving in your life like you never dreamed imaginable. I'm going to go over it on a high level here in this podcast, and then I'll break each thing down one by one. I'll talk to other people. We'll talk about other types of trauma. We'll talk about other types of success stories. I just want you to know that this is an option. I don't think this is the only option. I don't think that my way is the only way. Again, I'm one who has screwed many things up, and I've tried to learn as much as I can from them and not live in that place emotionally. So if you'd like to change your current circumstances, if you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, let's move forward. And that's what this is about. This is not a kumbaya thing. This is not something where I'll sit around and say, oh man, you should be sad. This is one of those, I got some skin on the wall. I got some understanding. I can see how tough things are, but you still got to get the fuck up and get to work. The process is, I think it's applicable to everything that you're going to do as far as learning and moving forward. You can do it in big and small, apply it here and there. And that is that you must have an open mind. And when I say open mind, I mean that there is anything that you think or believe, anything that I think or believe, I know this is true for me, anything that I think and or believe can become false in the instant that I learn information that shows it to be false. So just because I believe one thing to be true does not mean that it can become untrue. That allows me to be open to new information, to new ideas, to new philosophies, to new tracks or pathways to take. And there is where I was able to find some real key moments of awakening, a change in perspective, a change in how I look at life, how I look at life around me. Because I was open to changing anything in my life. And if you're not open to that, that's going to close doors. It's going to close pathways. It's going to shut down keys to revelations that could free you from the prison in which you find yourself trapped. So I beg you, if you don't think that you're an open mind, even if you think you're an open-minded person, think about anything in your life, and I mean anything. I don't want to touch on anything specific because I don't want to run people off by saying the wrong things. But if you believe something to be true, 2 + 2, and I ask you the question, which I will now, is there anything that I can say or show and prove that that is not true? Would you believe it? And if you say no, then you need to reflect and understand. And part of your journey will begin with understanding that we know so little as a human species, not just as Aaron Gray being uneducated, but as a human species. So if the human species doesn't know, then I cannot know. I can only know the things that we've put together up until this point. So if something new is presented to me that changes what I thought to be true yesterday, then I must understand and learn it so that my pathway can remain open to what is ahead of me. Now, I put out energy and thoughts and set goals in place and take motions towards these to minimize external factors from misguiding me. But just because somebody doesn't agree or has conflict with what it is that I think to be true does not mean that I don't listen to them or that I discount what it is they think and say. I do this because if I'm in a conversation with someone, I respect where they are and that they have their reality and that they are believing what it is that they are saying to me. And I need to see the information that has gotten them there, for good or bad. If I learn from somebody something and I see this individual suffering from something that I wish not to suffer from, then I learn that that is something that I probably don't need to do. If I see somebody thriving and doing something that I see to be very intriguing or something that would make me very happy if I was involved with, then I learn from them and how that they got to the position that they got and the way that they got to think the way that they think. And if that is in conflict with what I believe to be true in that moment, then maybe I need to look at what I believe to be true. I've done that many times over and over on some core issues and definitely on some not core issues. And it's not that you don't have a moral compass or don't have understanding. You're just slime that withers around and is moldable by those around you. That is absolutely not the case. The case is that you must be open to hearing information that could change everything almost in an instant for you. But if for one moment you've closed your mind, that information could present itself repeatedly and you will not hear it and therefore cannot learn it and therefore cannot make the changes necessary to achieve your goals and happiness. So the process that we would be going through, again, is it starts with an open mind, the willingness to change, the desire to not stay in the position that we find ourselves that we are not happy in. We're going to set goals, short, medium, and long. If that means day, week, month, 6 months, that's fine. If that means month, 6 months, year, 5 year, that's fine. 1 year, 5 year, 10-year life goals, that's fine. If it's one day all the way through that, that's fine. You define it, it's yours. What you need. The big ones need to be there, but they don't have to be there right away. Part of one of the early goals should probably be to come back to goals. Maybe all goals should be that. They should always have a goal to revisit goals. I've set some things in place and I am after them. I'm chasing them as hard as I can. What's wild is when I look back, some of the goals that I used to have are now just baselines. And it makes it clear how fast we can grow. And when I say that to you, what I say is, when I used to wake up and think that smiling wasn't an option, laughing wasn't an option, nothing was going to make these things possible. Joel was gone. One of my children was dead, and I would never see them again. Even though I told myself that wasn't all that mattered, it seemed that that was all that mattered. It's not all that mattered. There was a bunch of shit else that mattered. And I knew that, and I know it today. I don't discount anything that has happened. I have learned so much as the result of the pain that occurred from Joel's passing. I'm forever grateful for his little life. For what it has allowed me to learn as a human being is so far beyond the closed-minded, arrogant person that I was the day that he passed away. I am forever grateful. You set the goals. You set a routine that's going to serve those goals, one that is going to feed you mentally, physically, and emotionally. You're going to have to take actions. You're going to have to do things that you're not doing. If you were already doing them, you would be on your pathway to happiness. If you just do one and you don't do them all, you'll just be physically healthy, emotionally screwed. And if our emotions are screwed, then everything else is screwed. If our physical is screwed, then everything else is screwed. If our mental is screwed, then everything else is screwed. They must all be healthy, growing, working in conjunction with one another. And then you will find what it is that you seek. After you set your routine, you've got to stay disciplined. Staying disciplined is really where it comes into play, who's in whose way. And while we make all the bullshit up about everybody else and all these facts and other problems and blah, 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 we are the only ones standing in our way. I am the one in my way. My lack of discipline, my lack of sticking to itness, sticking to it, that's the problem. If I fail, it's because I didn't finish. I didn't fulfill the steps necessary. Now I can just say, oh, well, and walk off and say I failed, or I can revisit, learn where I failed, start over if that's what it means. And if I keep trying, I will accomplish that goal. So you got your routine in place and you've got your discipline in place. You've decided to take action. Now your destiny is on the way. You don't have to look right away and see that it's not there and think that you failed. That is not the case. It takes a while, especially depending on what goals you've set. Things will take a while, and you don't need to just be looking for successes to drive you. What drives you is that you are going to be happy as a result of what it is you are doing. You know this because you have learned through your mental work, your emotional work, and your physical work. I promise you, if you can stay honest with yourself and others, keep an open mind, keep your discipline in place, there is a pathway to happiness as you define it. I've lived it. I've seen others go through it and live it. I've seen plenty of others not go through it and stay exactly where they were. So if you're looking for happiness, especially after suffering any kind of trauma, and I mean any kind of trauma, it doesn't have to be something as serious as losing a child. If you've lost a job, if you've had a divorce, if you don't have custody of your children, if you've lost a pet that was close to you, if you find yourself stuck and as a result of the problem or the trauma, you are not progressing and living the life that you so long to live. Maybe you don't even long to live it because you don't even know. But you know you're tired of feeling like shit. Then please subscribe, follow, whatever wherever you are listening to me now. Also, go to www.i2uthrive.com. That's the letter I, the number 2, the letter U, THRIVE.com. And in these platforms, I'll be putting content, making content available, putting resources up. Again, I'm going to have a podcast breaking each one of these different parts of the process down into a more finite thing. I'm trying to keep these a little short so they're palatable. I really, really, really appreciate you listening, and I hope to have you back soon. Thank you so much. Peace, love, and happiness to all.